Okay, so I just put my toes in the water and I'm going to come over to the machine. I'm going to make sure the machine is plugged in. Oh, you know what? Power button is always helpful. Here I am being lickety-split. So I'm going to set this to the time. This is how we set this to the mode and the time that we're going to use for each. I'm going to do mode 4, start, time. Now, so I just started it. Did you hear that little noise? Just turned on. So this is what tells us if we need to add more salt. It's actually testing it right now. I just added a little salt as I put my toes in, just so I had my hands free. And this will be the water now. And I am not expecting anybody to hang out with me here for so many minutes. So I'll actually post an after picture when I'm done. So you can see right now that the water started to turn just a little bit before I put my feet in. And that is normal, just with the water that you're taking out of the tap. But now you can see as it's starting, the water is changing a little more. So see how you can see up in that corner there and up in that corner here. And what's fun about it, let me get my little chart here for you. What's fun about it is that you can start to look at over time, sorry about the glare, let's just say, that we start seeing a little more yellow-green. So we can look over here and we can see that the meridians that are being influenced during the session are like the kidneys, the bladder, the urinary tract, the prostate for males. So those meridians would be activated and beginning to detox. And here's the interesting thing is, because we're on the foot bath and because you start to see all of this color, I'm gonna turn it back around here, it seems like in the moment your body is doing a lot of the work and it is detoxing. However, the more work is even done when you get off of the foot bath or out of the foot bath. So you're starting the detox now, and as you move through your day, your body is still continuing to dump. And so that's why staying hydrated is super important when you are using the foot bath service. So, you know, if having a glass of water beforehand and then having a glass when you're done is super important. I'm going to turn it back around because it's already starting to turn just a little bit more than it was before. So it's hard to say if this is going to be more brownish. There's also just a tiny little hint of green starting to show up, but still a bit more on the orange side. So this is like joints so far as what we're starting to see. So the benefits of the foot bath are so many. First of all, it's super, super relaxing and you just are less stressed when you get off of the foot bath. Overall, less anxiety and less aggression. So if people are, struggling with temperament or behavior, that can be one thing that's kind of great, is looking at the kind of decrease in aggression overall, or just more chill behavior. Less joint pain, which is awesome. I mean, the water really started turning. Look at that now. So it's really worth watching this from the beginning just to kind of see a time lapse, if you will, because I am definitely not technologically savvy enough to give you a time lapse photo here. So sometimes people have like a more sympathetic response. They have more energy, which is interesting because I notice I'm more clear, more relaxed, but at the same time, then I have more energy. So it's, I really like that nice balance. For me, that feels super great. But for some, they're like, oh, I feel so relaxed. And some are like, wow, I got so much done that day. It was super clear, had a ton of energy. Kind of just depends on who you are. Some of the questions we get are, can kiddos do foot baths? Yes. The youngest little one around here is 3 that has been on the foot bath, so all ages. Contraindications include pregnancy, breastfeeding, if you have any sort of electrical device in your body. So we now have consent forms that we'll just have people sign off on before they take their foot bath. the thing that I love about foot baths too is just the overall reduction of chemicals and metals. And if we can find I'm just turning my notes over here because I want to show you a chart. If we can find ways to more easily help us with our detoxification process, more power to us, right? And when we talk about subtle daily detox, some people aren't on a nutrition protocol, but they want to find a way that's affordable and time efficient in terms of moving things through their body. And a foot bath is so, because you see it, you see the things happening, and we are very much like evidence-based. People want to see what's going on. So you can see we're starting to get some green. So you see up in the corner here where initially we started to see some of the orangish brown. Now we're seeing some green. We're also seeing some green up there. Not a shocker. Gallbladder is something that I am dealing with, giving some clearing and pushing to. I'm also seeing some lymph. I'm going to bring this a little closer. Sorry, I've got that silly fluorescent light in the background. It's a little bit hard to see. One of the things I've noticed, you see these little bubbles coming. So I wonder if I can get a little closer. Do you see those little flecks? So sometimes what we notice is these little flecks congregate and create kind of like little clouds. You can kind of see them at the edges there. Sorry, it's just such tricky. Okay, that angle. Okay, I'm going to point. Do you see those kind of little white flecks? So that's the lymph meridian, the lymphatic meridian. It's kind of foamy, I guess you could say, so that's kind of interesting. And sometimes we'll see pockets of that. It's like gathering up there in the corner. Again, I don't know why the corners like all the stuff, but the reason I'm not moving my feet is if I move my feet, it just sort of shuffles everything about, and then it's hard to see how things are settling. But let's talk about glyphosate for a second, because this is one of my favorite topics. So glyphosate, for those of you who may not know, is essentially Roundup. So we have Roundup sprayed on our crops. We have Roundup sprayed on the dandelions in our yards, right? Like, we can't really get away from the level of what is used in our communities. Interesting little tidbit. We recently had a gal whose dog got really sick in the fall. And when we tested the dog, yes, we do that. We test the four-leggeds and the two-leggeds around here. When we tested the dog, glyphosate came up as the very first toxin, like the toxin that was kind of blocking the whole body's ability to heal, which is fascinating and common, right? So we didn't think anything of it. However, the dog got extremely sick over the course of just a couple of days and was diagnosed with a terrible cancer, and there was nothing that could be done at that point, and passed. Now, like within a couple of weeks, the owner was feeling not so hot. The owner was already on a program. So we started looking a little bit deeper. What did we find? Glyphosate. Not long after, so we're handling it, right? So giving the body a way to kind of bind the junk and move it through the body, freeing up energy for the body to do other things, like get rid of bugs, get rid of the pathogens that are now having a party in the body because of the level of toxicity there. Okay, I'm going to take a break and move you back down here to do you see that? Honest to goodness, I need to turn off this. I wish I had a remote control for the light. I don't, but if you watched from the very beginning, you can see the change in color here from the foot bath. Okay, so owner tested for glyphosate. We started handling that with the owner. Within about a month, there was some things going on with her second dog. So we tested the second dog, and guess what we found? We found glyphosate again. The interesting common denominator. So there's always, it's always fun to kind of look to see when you're testing like a whole family system, like if you have a parent and some children, or both parents and a child or two, if there are any common denominators, like radon, for example. If radon's coming up in, one family member, it's worth, them looking at, seeing if they need to have their basement, mitigated. But if it's showing up in everyone, that's that's a real issue that needs to be managed. So here we have mom and both pets all testing for glyphosate. And upon further discussion, what we learned is that mom is living in like a complex, like a, what do you want to call it? Like a townhome complex with a homeowners association. So has no control over the chemicals that are used in her little patchy part of lawn and, the paths around the area where the dogs are being walked or were now being walked. So that's why we have to take our health into our own hands. That's why we have to claim our own health. It's not a pretty picture when we hand that over to someone else. So that comes from where we live, what we treat our lawns with. Our dogs lay on our lawns. So for example, we have this dingy rescue dog who, God love her, she's crazy. We don't spray in our yard. There is the occasional sneak attack from my husband when I'm out of town. But our yard as a whole is not sprayed. And what our dog will do is go lay in the neighbors' yards where they are sprayed and doesn't lay in our yard. It makes me crazy. But then she's super allergic and tests for pesticides and is anxious and all the things. And so it's just a constant cycle of managing her. But everybody responds differently. Okay, so glyphosate is something that we need to really work on detoxing for people. So I'm going to show you a graph. So this is showing you, hello, you can't see it unless I turn it around. Okay, so the IonCleanse foot bath by AMD results in lower glyphosate levels in study participants as compared to the control group. Therefore, this method of detox appears to be a successful therapy in the excretion of glyphosate in humans. It's like a 34% decrease in glyphosate, which is incredible. That's huge. 46% reduction in aluminum, 24% reduction in cadmium. Here we go again. Let's get another little look. Now, remember how I was telling you about the lymph getting all foamy? I'm going to come a little closer. Do you see now how it's just like swamp water? And you see all of the kind of white foamy stuff at the surface? That is the lymphatic system detoxing. So that means that somewhere in my body, the lymph is feeling a little stagnant. So I do the things to give that a little boost. One thing that's interesting about this, how we're able to use it. So anybody off the street can come in and do a foot bath. So that's one thing. It's a $30, 30-minute session. I mean, you're here for about 45 minutes all in all. You get 10% off of your first foot bath, and then you can purchase in packages after that. And how often it's used, it's really great if you can do it 2 or 3 times a week for 10 to 12 sessions, even on up to 20 sessions. People find kind of the more frequently they do it, the water shifts and changes. We even noticed over time, looking from person to person, how their own water changes, which I think is really kind of cool to see, like what their body is really working on pushing out. But then for people who are on a nutrition program with us, we love to, it's like a backdoor look. So for example, our little guy who's 5.5, so the first time he went on it, he enjoyed it. He hung out. He thought it was great. It's super relaxing. It totally chills him out. Then he asked me if he could do it again. So we came about a week later and we did it again. And so the backstory on Odin is parasites, and he's got chemical and metal toxicity, and that's what holds the parasites in place and allows them to be very, very busy, taking over and kind of running the show in his body, tummy aches, skin issues, etc. So we've done lots of work and lots of clearing, and they move and migrate. They lay eggs. They're hard to keep up on. So what we discovered with him is he did a foot bath. And as we were dumping the foot bath, we could see the black flecks. So I'm going to show you this again. So you'll note here, you see black flecks, heavy metal toxicity. As the mama bear, you can imagine how excited I was to see that, because though we know that chemicals and metals are a problem for him in the background, meaning it's, something that's tested before and we've had to manage that over time, they haven't tested in his program for a while. So it had me go, I got out the the resonance kit with metals and went to find where in his body the metals are hiding out, so I could give more of a push. Now, here's what happened. He did that second foot bath, which, right, is going to pull chemicals and pull metals. And the next morning, he had 3 worms that I could count. There may have been more in his morning bowel movement. A couple days later, he said, Mom, can we go back to the office and do a sauna and a foot bath? I'm like, oh, little guy after my own heart. So we did it again. We had the same response, showing metals in there, and the next morning, a push of the bugs. So it's a super non-invasive, comforting, relaxing way to give your body the boost it needs by detoxing the junk, freeing up the energy in your body for it to do exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Does that make sense to you? I'm going to look at how gross this water is now. See how it just looks like it doesn't feel like the water is thick and swampy, just so you know. It's, some of this stuff, if I lift my foot out, will sort of stick to my foot. And so we just, you can use a spray bottle with water if you'd like, or you just wipe off your foot with a paper towel. And then make sure you're well hydrated, right? So I've got my little water bottle sitting right here, and we've got reading information if you're looking at understanding more about the foot bath. That's the salt that we use to put in there, and then we leave that right here so you can look and watch to see what's going on with your toesies in the water. But again, we're seeing more lymph there with a little bit of liver meridian in the background. And notice how the water now is more green. That's gallbladder meridian. So that liver and gallbladder often get congested. And most people, we see that as a thing. So for me, we're handling that supplementally. We're handling that with food. And then there are some just drainage protocols that I do, such as the foot bath or dry brushing, sauna. I use the rebounder. They're just extra things that are at home that are easy to do. Look at that. So when I'm done, I will post a picture of the water before I pull my feet out when I'm done with this live, so you can sort of see what that before and after looks like. Again, because we want to be on the session for a total of 30 minutes. It's so crazy. And here's what's lovely about it is we're in the back therapy room. Usually the big light is turned off, just so you know. So I'm going to turn that around. So that's where we do our brain tap sessions right there. So you can kind of see the little headset. Can you see that little headset right there? It's super cool. You look like Ferris Bueller, but you totally chill out on there while you're repatterning your brain. This right here is the Chi machine. So this is also quite helpful for moving lymph. It's like a little body shaker. It feels awesome. This is the pulsed electromagnetic mat. You can't see it because it's under the sheet. And then we have just our little book area. And this is the little corner that I'm sitting in here for the foot bath. Ooh, it's getting thicker. So those are the benefits. Also, we were just talking about dogs. The four-leggeds can also do a foot bath. So I need to bring my dog in here because I haven't done that yet with her. And I'm curious to see if she will stand in there. Some of my colleagues tell me that if you can get a dog to stand with the front paws in the foot bath for the first 5 to 10 minutes, they'll come back for more. Like they know it's good for them and they will enjoy that. So I'm really curious to see about that, because we could run the foot bath on our doggy days that we have here once a month when Michelle's in testing all the pooches. So several reasons to be using that. Hey, Janelle, look at the gross water. Yuck. All right, I'm signing off. Foot bath here at My Healthy Beginning. You can give us a call, 612-418-3801.